you mentioned, funny enough, in the last podcast, you almost predicted it. There will be a marquee signing for Newcastle. And we were messaging in our WhatsApp group earlier on about the James Maddison news. Newcastle, according to the Telegraph, who are pretty reliable, have had a bid rejected for James Maddison. And it's looking like they're going to go back in with another bid. I'm very curious to know because the only way a club will bid for a player is if a player is given an indication that he's willing to join that club. So speaking of the Leicester demise that you've just mentioned, because it's looking like Leicester are going to be potentially the flop of the season, maybe Maddison has thought ahead and gone, you know what, there's nothing left in this project anymore. Let me go to one which is a bit more exciting. And obviously he could earn a lot of money as well. But what do you think of that Maddison news?
Well, first and foremost, it's critical for Leicester that they keep hold of him. He was out injured most of the season last year, and you could just see when he came back the improvement in the team when he was in it. Now, James Maddison improves pretty much a lot of teams that he would go to essentially, and so it's an interesting one for Newcastle because they don't tend to play with a 10 at the moment. So the initial impression that I got was that it probably wasn't possibly concrete information that we were receiving about a £40 million bid. It doesn't really seem to fit what they're doing there, essentially, unless they were looking to play with perhaps a two in the middle and obviously one behind the striker in a 4-2-3-1, but that's not the kind of formation that they've played. But Eddie Howe is trying to do more and more attacking football, so perhaps we could expect to see it. But £40 million for James Maddison, I think, is a fair fee. I think any more than that is probably stretching it. For me, I don't think this one will happen. I think it's important to say that. I think I was saying to you guys earlier, like, when we got the takeover, it felt like, yeah, great. It's our time to be involved now in the transfer windows. It's our time to actually get some exciting rumours rather than just a no name from like the Bulgarian Division 2. And actually, it's stretched on this long now that I am just exhausted with it. And I just want us to sign whoever we're going to sign. But I think with Newcastle, there's been very little like leaks. They seem to be quite assured of what they're doing. When they come up with a target, they kind of just go for it. And it doesn't drag on that long, which I think is positive. You look at Manchester United, for example, to use them as an example, and these things are dragging on with them. And I'm not sure if that's the right way, what you want to be doing essentially with your team is to have that in limbo for that long. I think if I was a Newcastle fan watching this, I'd sort of say, well, okay, Maddison would be great. He'd improve our team a lot, of course. Do I think it'll happen? No. I think I would look at Maxwell Cornet for Burnley.
Okay.
He's got a £17 million release clause. It's well documented that he wants to leave. For anyone not aware, he asked to go back to his parent club most of the way through the season, last season for Burnley. He asked to go back to his parent club, Lyon, actually not realising that he had signed for them on a permanent transfer rather than a loan. And that is actually 100% true. That actually did happen. Wasn't involved for Burnley last night against Huddersfield at all, not even on the bench. So it does look like he is on his way out. And he's got a £17 million release clause. He scored 9 goals for Burnley last season in a struggling team. I think he was their top scorer. For me, that makes all the right signs. It improves our side. He's good value for money. He's a very relatively low risk. And it's in a problem area. So that's the one I would focus on as a Newcastle fan. But yeah, Maddison would be great.
Yeah, so Maddison may or may not happen. If Maddison and Depay happens, well, we're going outside St. James's to celebrate, I'm assuming, yeah?
Yeah, few beers if we get the three of them over the line, eh?
Yeah, I mean, look, the way football is now and the way money talks, I just wouldn't rule it out. I know you hate the transfer season, and me and Becky, we love it, right? Because we just inject it into our veins. We love the speculation, but look, mate, I'm saying now, don't rule it out. You may be surprised what happens by the end of this window. I think a lot of clubs need liquid cash, especially if we are about to go into potentially a very big recession. A lot of people will be looking ahead, bar Barcelona, because they don't look at finances. They just sort of buy what they want.